Hey guys, today we're in the book of 1 Samuel chapter 27. Chapter 27 is a really short chapter, but it's also a really sad chapter. We see something happening in David. And it said, "Then David said in his heart, 'Now I shall perish one day by the hand of Saul. There is nothing better for me than that I should escape to the land of the Philistines.'" Here we see David letting his heart getting the best of him. Not his heart for the Lord, but his heart of discouragement, of always being hunted, of always being chased. We see him in his dark place, and he starts to think, man, Saul's eventually going to kill me. I've got to get out of Israel. Now remember, Israel is the promised land. It is the place where God has promised the blessing to all Israelites. And here he is saying, hey, I need to go to a land that belongs to someone else. Even though it is in the promised land borders, it is still land owned by Philistines. Philistines are idol worshipers. They're people who oppose Yahweh. They're people who hate Yahweh. These are the people who stole the Ark of the Covenant. This is the people that were punished by the Ark of the Covenant, by God, through mice and through tumors and all the things, right? So David is such a low place, he's starting to have bad thoughts. And when we have bad thoughts, sometimes that leads us to bad actions. And so he says, I got to get out of here. So it says, David arose with his men and they go to the Philistine territory. They go to the king Achish. Who's the king of Gath, one of the Philistine cities. He said, hey, can I stay here because Saul's going to kill me? Well, the Philistine king says, sure, you can stay here. But you've got to do something for me, right? And what is that? Well, he says, hey, you got to clean up the territory, right? You've got to help me. And so David goes. And in verse 8, it says that he goes and makes raids on the Geshuites, on the Gerzites, the Machilites. These are all enemies of Israel that they didn't conquer during the book of Joshua, right? Remember the book of Joshua? They had big war and they took over the land, but each tribe was supposed to go out and chase all enemies out of the promised land. Well, they didn't do that. So now hundreds of years later, they've grown and grown and grown. And so now David is doing a good thing per se in going out and killing these enemies of Israel. But the problem becomes that when he goes, he wipes everybody out, women, children, men, so that nobody could say where they were from. And when he comes back, he lies to the king. He lies to the Philistine king. And the Philistine king says, where did you raid today? And he says, oh, the Negeb of Judah, or the Negeb of Jerahmeelites, or the Negeb of the Kenites. These are all Israel people within the borders of the promised land. And so he's saying, hey, I'm going out and I'm killing Israelites. I'm raiding Israelites. But in fact, he was raiding the enemies, right? And so he's lying to the king because he wants the king to like him and to love him and let him stay there. But the king is liking it because he believes, well, David is basically backstabbing his own kinsmen, right? He's backstabbing Israel by going to these places. And so basically he's saying, well, David will stay here and he'll be my servant forever because he can't go home because they'll hate him, right? So he has to stay here and work for me, right? And increase the land of the Philistines. And all of this happened. This is the most important part. All of this happened because of verse 1. Because of David listened to his heart, not to the Lord, right? He listened to his feelings, his emotions. He let the worst get the better of him, right? And so it just tells us that sometimes our feelings are not what we are supposed to act on. We are to act on the Word of God. We are to act on good, sound advice of Christians who are in the Word of God, that sometimes we feel like we are being hunted and we're trapped and we're in the darkest place, but that's never a time to make a decision. It's always the time to look upward and to let God lead us. And so because he didn't listen to God in this circumstance, it not only leads to his destruction, but his men's destruction, and all of these people that he's going out and destroying and lying to. And you can just see how one sin turns into another, and now we have a terrible web of sins that the next king of Israel will have to deal with, which is him, right? So I hope that makes a little bit more sense. We will see you tomorrow in chapter 28. God bless.